Recording is now in progress.
Here we are.
Here we are.
I'm totally unprepared. I should have things in front of me that tell me the things I need to know.
Well, I just switched us, so there's that.
No one's prepared today.
No.
Not even our listeners / watchers.
Yes.
Viewers.
Viewers. Yes, our lovely viewers that we have.
Some people like to watch. Kinkier that way.
Exactly.
Shall I intro us this time?
Absolutely.
Amanda, and also friend, welcome back to Forbidden, the podcast where we discuss the disgusting, the dark, and the disgraceful in our unmentionables. Today it's robes because it's cold out. We've slipped into something more comfortable, and we hope that you are doing the same. I'm Blake Roberts.
And I'm Amanda Kamada.
And this is the final installment of our confessions. Wait, is this confession? No, this is corruption.
Corruption.
I have confession. I said the wrong thing. It is corruption. No, I had a trimmed down version of this. I hate the slides. It's too long. All right. I'm going to edit so much of this out.
He's parched.
And we're going to get to that in just a second.
Okay.
Get ready to explore the chilling overlap of crime and power as we uncover the cases where true crime meets political intrigue. From high-profile scandals and criminal conspiracies to unsolved mysteries with ties to the corridors of power, we're investigating the hidden stories shaping our society. Amanda, are you ready for this?
I am ready. And I have to say, I hope that I'm prepared for this. I've had quite a week, but the last, what are you drinking this evening? I guess I should ask first, because you are parched.
I am parched. I worked late. And so I literally rushed in and grabbed a glass and poured whatever was open in it. So I can't tell you what it is, except that it's red.
Okay. Well, I have my trusty vodka soda because I've had a week of it, and that's pretty much all I had here. So cheers.
Cheers. Has it been a good week?
It has been a good week. It's just been crazy because I got a new job, which we can talk about more in the talk of shame coming up after this. It's been good. But, anytime you start a new job, it's the level of stress and, just taking in everything, like you have to be on, it feels like, a lot more. And I got home last night probably around 7 o'clock or something like that. And I think I was in bed by asleep by 7:30. I was just dead to the world and woke up at 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm ready for the story. My 3 hints that I gave last time were Arkansas, land, and Kenneth Starr.
Mm-hmm.
So not sure if you have any idea what that is or if you looked up anything. But my sources today are Wikipedia, the site Vox.com, the New York Times, and then a book, some excerpts from a book called Living History, which was written by Hillary Clinton. So this actually involves the Clintons, and we're going to talk today about Whitewater, which is a scandal that happened before. Well, it came out during his run for presidency, but it actually happened prior to his becoming president. So the Clintons have always been dogged with a lot of different types of stories and their involvements in certain things. So we're going to talk about Whitewater today. So,
okay, this actually does sound, I have very vague recollections of this from my childhood.
Right, and you would, because it happened in the 80s, and it came out really in the early 90s. But the Whitewater scandal refers to a controversial real estate investment deal involving Bill and Hillary Clinton, as well as their business partners, Jim and Susan McDougal, during the 1980s.
Jim and Susan what?
McDougal.
Mc, McDoodle?
McDougal with a
McDougal.
G.
Oh, I
With
like
a
my
G.
version. I like my version way better.
McDoodle. So this was during the 1980s, and the scandal primarily centers around an ill-fated real estate project called Whitewater Development Corporation, and that was in Arkansas. So the story starts in 1978 when Bill Clinton served as Arkansas's Attorney General. Now, prior to his being elected at the age of 32, that November of 1978, he was the Arkansas Attorney General. Just as an aside, he was earning about $35,000 per year for that job, which is roughly $170K today. So while that sounds like a little bit of money, like 35K seems like, oh my God, like I'm broke.
Especially in Arkansas.
Especially in Arkansas, like in today's numbers adjusted for inflation, it's like 170K. So I'm like, that's really not that bad back
Doing
then.
fine.
Yeah. But he was Attorney General when this actual deal was made. He and his wife, Hillary, began scouting opportunities for investment income to supplement his government salary and her earnings as an attorney at the Rose Law Firm. And this is a quote from Hillary's book, quote, "I worried that because politics is an inherently unstable profession, we needed to build up a nest egg," she wrote in her 2003 memoir, Living History. "I had never given much thought to saving or investments until I realized that if our growing family were going to have any financial cushion, it would mostly be my responsibility." So even back then, I think she had grandiose ideas of him staying in politics for quite some time, even though he had just become governor. So, I've always thought that Hillary Clinton kind of runs that show.
I think a lot of people felt that way.
Yeah, yeah. And even more so, than like even in their investments and that sort of thing, she kind of took the lead on that, if you will.
She wore the pantsuit in that family.
She did wear the pantsuit in that family. So a little bit of background on this. In the early 1980s, Bill Clinton, and then the governor of Arkansas, and Hillary Clinton, she was an attorney, along with their partners, Jim and Susan McDougal, invested in the Whitewater Development Corporation. The goal was to develop a resort property in the Ozarks. So they bought 230 acres of undeveloped land along the south bank of the White River near Flippin, Arkansas.
Oh my gosh, I used to go fishing there with my father and my grandfather.
In Flippin or on the White River?
Flippin.
Really?
In the White River, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I've never been to Flippin, and I was raised in Arkansas. I know where the White River is for sure, but I've never been to Flippin. But the population in 2020 was only 1,345 people. So
Yeah.
a very small town. I guess the only thing that's there is like a gas station and a tackle shop.
Yeah, we stayed. Oh my gosh, remind me to tell you at the end of this or in our talk of shame about when we stayed there and my grandfather's theater boots.
Theater boots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So they bought, so Flippin is in the Ozark Mountains, which I guess you very well know. So the whole goal was to subdivide this 230 acres into site lots for vacation homes. And basically, it was intended for many people coming south from Chicago and Detroit who were interested in low property taxes, fishing, rafting, and mountain scenery. The plan was to hold the property for a few years and then sell the lots at a profit. So basically, what they thought is that people would come down from the north, buy these places. Between the four, they borrowed $203,000. That seems like such a little bit of money for four people to go in on, but these days, but they borrowed $203,000 to buy the land and subsequently transferred ownership of it to the newly created Whitewater Development Corporation, in which all four participants had equal shares. Susan McDougal chose the name Whitewater Estates, and their sales pitch was one weekend here and you'll never want to live anywhere else.
Okay.
Okay,
It's a stretch.
1,300 people? I think that's a stretch. I mean, what the fuck do you do there other than fishing and rafting and taking in the scenery? Like, I can think of a million different places where I would want to live.
Yeah.
The business was officially incorporated on June 18th of 1979. But by the time the lots were surveyed, so, when you buy this land, you can't just parcel it out, and start selling pieces of it. You have to have it surveyed, lotted off, all of that kind of stuff. And by the time it was surveyed and available for sale at the end of 1979, interest rates had climbed to nearly 20%. That is an egregious amount of interest. I mean, I thought our interest rates were high right now. When I saw 20%, I was like, holy shit, like that's crazy. Prospective buyers could no longer afford to buy vacation homes. So rather than take a loss on the venture, the Ford decided to build a model home and wait for better economic conditions. The investment was initially handled through a partnership with the McDougals, who were involved in the failed Arkansas Savings and Loan Association. And they had a bank called Madison Guarantee Savings and Loan. So Jim McDougall owned the Madison Guarantee Savings and Loan. It was a small thrift institution in Little Rock, Arkansas. It later failed and was a major factor in the Whitewater investigations. The savings and loans, so Madison Guarantee Savings and Loan, was linked to fraudulent loans, including loans related to Whitewater development. The failure of Madison Guarantee cost taxpayers millions of dollars, and the Clinton administration faced question about its role in overseeing such financial dealings. Now, from what I could surmise, it was like the savings and loan, because Bill Clinton was governor at the time. He pressured people to take out loans through the savings and loan. And actually, he received kickbacks in some of his campaigns and stuff like that in relation to the savings and loan. So there were just some fraudulent things going on there. And so the controversy first gained attention in 1992 during Bill Clinton's presidential campaign. Several investigative bodies, including the FBI, the Department of Justice, and a special prosecutor, were involved in examining the Clinton family's involvement in Whitewater and the broader issue of their financial dealings with the McDougals. It was the focus of several investigations over the years, including those led by special counsel Robert Fisk and later Ken Starr. So Kenneth Starr actually was a part of the Whitewater investigation when it came out, but his investigation expanded beyond Whitewater because he most notably investigated the Monica Lewinsky scandal, which eventually led to his impeachment in 1998. However, after years of investigation, no direct evidence was found that Bill or Hillary Clinton had committed any crimes in relation to Whitewater. Investigations also found that Clinton was not involved in any illegal activities in Madison Guarantee. But who knows about this? Because the allegations were that they were accused of financial misconduct, fraud, improper involvement in the operation of the savings and loan. And they looked into whether Bill and Hillary had improperly benefited from their association with the McDougals, and whether they had been aware of any of the illegal activity that was going on there. Allegations also extended to political potential conflicts of interest, misuse of political influence, and other irregularities in the Clintons' business dealings. Despite years of investigation and extensive scrutiny, no charges were ever filed against Bill or Hillary regarding Whitewater. However, the investigation led to criminal charges and convictions against several people connected to the scandal, including Jim McDougal, who was convicted of fraud and other charges related to Madison Guarantee and his former business partners, which I'll get into in a moment. Even though it didn't link the Clintons into any illegal actions, it did fuel political controversy for many years during his presidency. And I kind of feel like it was the starting point of like the Republicans really being out for him. And the Monica Lewinsky scandal just completely, solidified that because of what happened with her. Which we can talk about in a moment, because I'd kind of like to get your ideas on the Monica Lewinsky scandal, because I didn't think we needed to cover it. I think it's been done to death. I think everybody knows about it. But the Clintons lost between $37,000 and $69,000 on this investment, which was less than what the McDougals lost. The reasons for the unequal capital contributions by the Clinton and McDougals are unknown, but the president's critics cited the discrepancy as evidence that then Governor Clinton was to contribute to the project in other ways. So Ken Starr was the one that investigated the Monica Lewinsky affair. And basically, the way that this all came out in 1992 during his presidential run is he was asked by the New York Times reporter about the failure of the Whitewater development. So there was a subsequent New York Times article by reporter Jeff Girth that appeared in March 8th of 1992.
Jeff what?
Jeff Girth. There are a lot of funny names in this story.
So that one I heard correct.
Right. He must be really hung.
Please continue.
Yes. The Whitewater scandal was one of the earliest and most enduring controversies that dogged Bill Clinton's political career. It contributed to a narrative of mistrust and political opposition that followed the Clintons throughout the 1990s. The investigation was highly politicized and became a symbol of the intense partisan conflict during that time. In the end, Whitewater was just one of the many investigations that shaped the political landscape of the 1990s, but it remains a key example of how political and personal controversies can become entangled in the machinery of American governance. The Clintons were never charged with any crimes, although 15 other people were convicted of more than 40 crimes, including then Governor Jim Guy Tucker, who resigned from office. So Jim Guy Tucker was the governor that came in after Bill Clinton was inaugurated as president. Nevertheless, the White House was criticized in delaying the production of evidence related to this case, and unmerited litigation by the president's lawyers severely impeded the investigation's progress, leading to a total cost of nearly $60 million. The government spent $60 million investigating this Whitewater event that was a $200,000 deal, and then some existential loans that had gone through that savings and loan that failed.
How does one even spend $60 million on an investigation like that?
I know.
I'm so confused by that number.
Yeah, $60 million. I mean, and we can't even get health insurance paid for.
Right.
But they'll spend $60 million on this stupid, Whitewater, looking up this Whitewater deal. But some of the people who did serve time and or were convicted, again, were Jim Guy Tucker, the former governor of Arkansas, but he was the governor of Arkansas at the time. He resigned because of this whole investigation. He was convicted on 3 counts of fraud. His attorney, John Haley, was called out for tax evasion. Jim McDougal, who was the banker who owned the savings and loan and was, of course, the Clinton political supporter, was convicted of 18 felonies. Susan McDougal was convicted of multiple frauds, but Bill Clinton actually pardoned her, which I think is interesting that she was pardoned, but her husband wasn't pardoned.
I wonder what she did to earn that pardon.
I don't know. Well, where Brother Bill is involved, who knows?
Ask Monica.
There is a guy named Chris Wade. He was the Whitewater real estate broker, and he was also pardoned by Bill Clinton. He was convicted of multiple loan frauds. Yeah, so there were quite a few. Most of it was for loan fraud, bribery charges, all this kind of stuff. So I have a very, very difficult time, believing that the Clintons didn't do something wrong in all of this, for sure. They just happened to be, in a place of power once this came out, that they were able to get attorneys to get them out of it and spent, millions of dollars to do
I'm glad that was a one-off. I'm glad to see that those things don't happen anymore.
Oh, yeah. Fraud and government and weird spending and, investigations. So there is a lot more. This is kind of like the cliff notes of Whitewater. But basically, I always just wondered what Whitewater was about. And it was just a failed real estate deal. I thought it was something a little more salacious than that. But no. And the Clintons never, saw any, convictions or, did any time or anything for it. So they came out squeaky clean once again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the story of Whitewater, short and sweet.
Yeah, that was interesting. Like I said, I remember hearing about Whitewater. I mean, hearing my parents talk about it. My parents did not vote for any of the Clintons. So you can imagine how those conversations went. But one of my favorite memories on one of our fishing trips in Flippin on White River was we had a guide, like a boat. One of those people that drive the boats,
A boat captain.
A little boat captain. He and my dad talked for hours about politics, and it was very cordial. They'd had different opinions, and this is what I like about this series is, I mean, you and I pretty much are on the same page, but I do think it's important, and that was the sort of a fond memory for me, that people can be open and polite.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah. But I remember like enjoying the conversation. I don't remember any of it now, but I just remember like the tone was positive, and there was some like friendly ribbing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember all these things, but that was a good memory for me. So yeah, I guess that's my hope in all of this and anything political, is that people just be more receptive and intelligent. And
Exactly, because there is a lot of stuff that goes on, and if you get wrapped up in all of it, I mean, it could really drive you mad, quite frankly, because there are so many things, especially going on right now, and I'm trying to remain positive, which we can get into in the talk of shame. Speaking of pardons, definitely going to talk about some of that in the talk of shame. But the Monica Lewinsky scandal, I mean, everybody knows about that. It's like, I personally have always been a very big Bill Clinton fan. I thought he was an amazing president. I was actually able to vote for him in his second term. I turned 18 less than a month before He was reelected into office. So I always like hold that a little bit dear, that was my first voting experience, was being able to vote for him during his reelection campaign. And, the Monica Lewinsky thing was so crazy, but I totally would have if I were her. You know what I mean? Like I totally could have seen myself getting caught up in something like that,
Yeah.
And it was just so crazy how she was blamed, for it. So, I mean, I know that he went through impeachment proceedings and all that kind of stuff. Like it's not like he got out of it unscathed, but she
Right.
was really painted as like this tart,
But hasn't that been the case, just less so now, but from the beginning of time until recently,
Mm-hmm.
always blame the woman,
Yeah.
and it's like sexually, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Always the slut. It's always the woman's fault.
Slut
Why did you marry
shaming.
her? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
asking.
in fact, I've seen interviews and stuff with her. She seems like she is a delightful person and also very, very smart. She really came out of that and came into her own really well because, she was just a pariah for years.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I want to say about this, because of the story that I just did, which was really about hypocrisy, and it was the outing of several politicians. The difference is, I don't care what people do in their personal lives, like, and I don't think the public needs to know those things.
Those sorts of
Whereas
things.
with my story I just did, it did because their actions in their personal lives were in complete contradiction to what they were doing and saying in their political lives.
Right.
So in that context, I just I feel like people cared too much about it was just a buzzy story, and it was easy for one party to cling on to it, and you know
Right. Well,
that's
and here's the thing, if you were from Arkansas, you knew that guy was a philanderer years and years before he was ever president of the United States. I mean, he was a known philanderer and when he was a governor, I mean, when he was running for office the first time, people came out, and were saying that they slept with him and all that kind of stuff. The difference was he was in this position of power and she was so much younger than him that and then he lied about it under oath.
yeah,
So can't be doing that. But
right,
I just
right.
wish that he would have been truthful about it, because if he had been truthful about it, then I don't
Yeah, it
think it
might have
would
turned out.
a little differently. Yeah.
I feel like it was also an interesting time culturally because you were fresh out of the Reagan years, and then you had George Bush Sr. And I feel like that was sort of really the beginning of, I think we've talked about this before, but sort of the infusion of religion and politics.
Hmm.
Before it had always been separation. Both parties had always sort of agreed on that separation of church and state, which is,
The way
what
it should be.
is the way it should be.
Yes.
But I feel like that in the 90s was really when that conservatism really sort of shifted, and so there was a lot more finger pointing in situations like that.
Hmm. Right. Right.
Yeah, things that don't really have an impact on the direction of the country, but
Right.
people tried to say that it did.
Right.
Lying under oath is one thing, 100%
Yeah.
incorrect, wrong thing to do.
Wrong thing to do,
The
particularly
action,
when you're the president of the United States.
yeah, but the action that got him into that state, I felt like it just didn't matter.
No, no, I agree.
But
And who knows? There were probably other interns too. They just didn't get caught.
totally.
Yeah. But that's the story of Whitewater, and I'm still a fan of Bill Clinton. Think he was a wonderful president. Bring back Brother Bill whenever.
Yeah.
Although I think he's a little too old now. I think he's over and done with, the whole political game and stuff. But anyway.
That was fun. That was sort of nostalgic for me.
Yeah.
I'm picturing, like, obviously I can see that trip, that fishing trip. I'm remembering all the things that surrounded that, and then just the 90s and going to church, and my mom had the hair. Do you remember this in maybe like the early to mid 90s, where women, probably in a certain part of the country only, they had like the hair would, like, it was teased, but it would, like, there were wings.
Winged out. Yes. Susan had that hairdo too. Like shoulder length wings. Yes.
I can picture my mom in a like greenish, maybe like a greenish teal dress. She had like strawberry blonde hair and heels, like a very early 80s dress. And like her heels clicking on the floor. I can picture it all right now. Like us getting ready to go to church on a Sunday morning.
That's so funny. How old were you, do you think, when you did the flippin' trip?
Well, we did it multiple times, but that one would have been 92.
Okay.
When was he first?
92 is when he was elected.
So then it would have been 91 or 92.
Yeah.
So
because it was 92 and 96, I believe.
Yeah, I would have been under 10.
Yeah.
That was fun. I enjoyed that story.
Yeah. Well, should we jump on over to the Talk of Shame?
Let's do it.
I guess we should probably go through our list of things that we would like our listeners and viewers to do. One of which would be to continue listening and watching us, but also rating and reviewing us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple for podcasters at The Forbidden Pod. Also, you can take a look at our website. I finally got most of it updated. www.forbiddenpod.com. Check out our social channels. That would be Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is back as of now. So we are at The Forbidden Pod. And then send all of your story ideas, feedback, your nudes, all that good stuff to hello@theforbiddenpod.com.
Yes. And I just want to add one thing real quick. We actually had an interesting comment or question on the last YouTube video. So you can email questions, but also drop us comments. It's always we like engaging with people there too, publicly.
What was the question?
I'll share it on the Talk of
Shame. Okay.
I'll find it in betwixt here and there.
Okay.
And we'll do that.
Well, Blake, thank you for listening to my story this evening.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome for the nostalgia.
For the memories.
Yes. And listeners, as always, we thank you.